Could Florida State and Clemson really be joining the Big 12? Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. I'm Trevor, and this is the channel where we talk all things BYU, Big 12, conference realignment, and all of that good stuff. Now, I'm on vacation right now, as is evidenced by my makeshift studio here. And what a week I picked to be gone, because I missed all the Big 12 media days, and at which Ross Dellinger broke the news that Big 12 has been in talks with Florida State and Clemson about bringing them to the Big 12 using private equity to help pay them more money to help them close the gap with the SEC and Big Ten schools. And I don't know if it would close the gap all the way, pay them more or less, but either way, to use private equity to pay them to really help them earn more money than the other schools in the Big 12. Now, I've seen a lot of things floating around on Twitter right now. It's hard to tell what, if any of it, is real, what's rumored, what's satire. And so, sifting through all of that, I will say I do believe Ross Dellinger that the Big 12 would put that offer out there. It seems like something that Brett Yormark would put together and at least try to see if they could make it happen. And I mean, if the Big 12 is successful, we can talk about, and we'll get to that in a minute, whether they should do this or not. But if the Big 12 is successful, it would, I think, really lock them in as the third conference and really help elevate them more to being closer in line with the SEC and Big Ten. Obviously, being a death knell, maybe not destroying the ACC, but definitely putting it at a distant fourth. And so there's a lot of reason for the Big 12 to go ahead and at least have these conversations. Whereas for Florida State and Clemson, it makes a lot of sense for them to at least hear this offer and see what's there. The worst that could happen is that, hey, it's a really good offer that we can't refuse. Let's take it. Let's go. But also, they can use this, whether they have interest in the Big 12 or not, use this as leverage with the SEC or the Big Ten and say, hey, look, we've got other offers out there. We've got these lawsuits going on. We are doing our best to get out of the ACC so we can come join you. But so the only reason why I think that they would be doing that is if they don't have something essentially lined up for sure with either the Big Ten or the SEC, which means they're going through this whole lawsuit just without kind of, a wink and a nod from behind the scenes saying, yeah, you get out of the ACC, we'll bring you in. I assume that if they were going to be going through these lawsuits, that they would definitely know that they had a landing place. And so if they're taking offers from the Big 12, either it's just, hey, it doesn't hurt to listen, we're not going to do it, but let's just see on the off chance, or it means that they're not entirely sure. They don't completely have a landing place locked down, and they are using this this offer from the Big 12 as leverage. So I don't really know. Obviously, I don't think anybody does at this point, but it's really picking up a lot of heat on Twitter. People are getting really excited about it. Now, I've seen a lot of other things following that saying, yeah, the Big Ten and SEC are both out on those schools. They don't have an offer, in which case I would think listening to the Big 12 would be a no-brainer that, hey, we could stay here at the ACC and try to make things work, or we can go make a lot of money through private equity, go to the Big 12 and use that at least in the short to midterm until perhaps there is a chance to go to those other conferences if that is, in fact, what they want to do. So it does, whereas, before this news came out, I probably would have put the chance of those two schools ending up at the Big 10 or the Big 12 as maybe 10% at most. And now it's definitely shifting. It definitely seems like there's potential for it. It's a possibility. So we will see. I am seeing some things now suggesting that Notre Dame and Stanford are basically a lock for the Big Ten, and that could happen soon, which would essentially mean that Clemson and Florida State are out of contention for getting into the Big Ten. I'm not saying that's not true. I just don't understand why, because Notre Dame has been so adamant time and again that they do not want to be in a conference. And I think as long as they have a path to the playoff and a path to the championship without being in a conference, I do not think that they would take that. I don't know what has changed now for them to have changed their mind. I mean, they just locked in another TV deal. They are doing just fine. Stanford had their chance last year. I've heard that Stanford obviously wanted to get into the Big Ten, but they were told no because Notre Dame said no. So what changed between last year and this year? I don't know if I'm buying that one. And seen some other things too that, the Big 12 rather, is bringing in FSU and Clemson, but could bring in some other schools, Virginia Tech, Miami, whoever else, NC State, Louisville, all those others that are mentioned. I've seen so many permutations of that same scenario of different schools coming into the Big 12 along with FSU and Clemson. So who really knows what could happen? I mean, if they really do explore that offer and the Big 12 does extend that offer, anything could happen at that point. So now, do I think that the Big 12 should do this? And I do have some mixed feelings using private equity to try to get leverage to bring these schools in, because you're really banking on getting an improved TV deal with these two schools coming in at the next time the TV deal is up, and that you're going to get that payout and an increased payout and improve your standings. You're also banking on their performance as schools to give you additional spots perhaps into the playoff. We know that Brett Yormark pushed to have the chance to have the payout percentage, which I think is something like 14 or 15% to the Big 12, modified if the conferences expand. So obviously I think bringing in Florida State and Clemson, who have had a lot of success, would definitely move that in favor for the Big 12, and that would go up, bringing in additional revenue for the schools. So I see the benefit. It definitely make sure that the Big 12 is not left behind and is not a distant third. It definitely would help close that gap to be right up there with the other two. Probably, I'd say, maybe not quite at that level, but you're bringing in two football blue blood programs, and along with what is the deepest conference in college football. Not the conference doesn't have so much dead weight at the bottom like the other two do. So be very competitive. You bring in your big brands, and so I think that helps the Big 12 stay relevant. So ultimately, there is some downside to it. It is risky, but I think you have to take that swing, because that is the only way you stay in the game. Because right now, if we stay as is, even with selling the naming rights of the conference, even bringing in private equity, you can do things to continue to shrink that gap with between the Big 12 and the SEC and Big 10, but that gap is just going to be smaller. You're not actually really going to close it all the way. And if those two conferences want to, they can always turn around and do those same things, just widening that gap right back up, and then we're back where we started. So I think staying as is only going to ensure that the Big 12 is at best a distant third place out of the power conferences. Whereas if you bring in Florida State and Clemson, then you're really in the conversation with there truly being big three conferences, and the ACC in a very distant fourth. So anyway, I think they should do it if this is real. I think they should continue to explore it, see what it takes to bring them in. Obviously, they have to weigh what those pros and cons are. They've got all the financials there, so they would have to decide that. But I think that I think Big 12 fans would be really excited to see them join the Big 12. And as Brett Yormark continues to work more and more miracles. But let me know what you think. If this is real, do you think that the Big 12 should use private equity to bring them in? Do you think it's worth it? Or do you think you start creating a dynamic kind of like with Texas where you've got that separation? I know that unequal revenue sharing has caused a lot of issues in conferences in the past. Is this something that the Big 12 should do? Or do you think they're going to have a little bit of reluctancy to embrace that after so many years of dealing with Texas and the like, and finally getting Texas out and then bringing in other programs to kind of be first-class citizens and everyone else second-class in the conference? Let me know. Do you think that that is a good idea for the Big 12? Would you like to see them do that? Let me know all that. And let me know if you think there's even a chance that the Big 12 can pull this off. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps boost us a lot and continue to get in front of more people and get the conversation going. So appreciate you watching. And as always, go Cougs.